Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jorge Soto, joined by Aaron Melamed, who is the CEO of Itero. We're really excited about this topic for a couple reasons. So the first reason is really AI has seemingly taken over our planet in many ways. So sales teams are really trying to figure out how to actually leverage this technology. And so today we're going to give you an introduction to building these AI agents for sales teams. So before we dive into the content and Aaron shows his wizardry, just for the folks out there, go ahead and comment, add questions, any feedback you have. This is your time. Aaron is a non-technical former sales leader. Wow, you're CEO, so you're still sales leader. But from title, I should say, has carried a bag, operated teams, done sales ops, who's literally going to show you here today how to build these things. So he's going to dive into the why this matters and why it matters right now. And then he's going to dive into some use cases, literally like dive into the tools, share his screen, and show how to do that. So, again, this is your time. Go ahead and comment in the comment wall here. You're probably watching this either on LinkedIn, YouTube, or even Facebook. I streamed out to my Facebook here for folks, because you know what? Folks who are doing sales are also on Facebook, right? Not just LinkedIn. So real quick, Aaron, why don't you just tell folks a little bit about your background and how did you become an AI expert as a sales leader and former sales rep and sales ops professional, sales enablement professional?
Yeah, so just briefly a little bit about me. I started my tech career at a company called Namely, and basically was the first salesperson, closed the first $1 million of ARR there, and built an SDR team in 2013 before SDRs were really much of a thing. And then I was at a company called Greenhouse and had I was there from basically $1 million of ARR to close to $40 million of ARR. And I built SDR teams there. I managed AE teams, spent some time working on selling new products. And then I was at a company called Heap, I was the director of sales enablement there. And then most recently, I was at a company called Orem for 4 years. They're a power dialer. I was an enterprise rep there, actually. And then I founded Itero about a little over a year ago. And as a long story short, that's kind of how the bullet points of my career arc. But I've always been into operational parts of sales. I've always enjoyed unblocking salespeople, putting in a good technology stack in front of our reps so they can focus on the actual job. And I think one of the things for me, when ChatGPT came out and AI has now become a ubiquitous tool that everyone uses, it could solve a lot of the problems that we wanted to solve that used to just require a bunch of human grunt work. Obviously, call summarization, which is probably the most common use case that everyone has into AI. And so I just leaned into using AI, and you basically have like a few different maturity levels right now, which is I use ChatGPT. I ask questions, I get a response, and then I copy and paste that and do other stuff with it. But you can move up the maturity curve pretty quickly, actually, and that's some of the stuff that we're going to go over today. But I just geeked out, nerded out, and as a founder, you have a choice. You either hire people to do stuff, or you figure out to get AI to do the work for you. Yeah. In that adventure, I figured out, some of the what's the low-hanging fruit, and where you get the most ROI, and then also where you can maybe put some extra calories in to get really transformational change.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a basic idea.
And
Necessity. AI is a necessity for me as a solo founder, basically.
Yeah, totally. And for the folks out there, we won't dive into this here today, but maybe we can do some other session talking about how to leverage AI for company building, right? For operations. Today we're going to focus really more on, go to market and sales tactics. So again, before Aaron dives in, put your comments, questions, feedback on the feed. I can see there are quite a few folks out there tuning in. This is your time to literally, ask the questions, and we can get to it in real time and show you whatever it is that you're struggling with. So, Aaron, real quick, why now? You mentioned ChatGPT. You mentioned kind of the maturity sort of curve and the different tools. If I'm a sales leader right now who's trying to figure out how to leverage AI agents, and I'm scared because maybe there's a bit of a technical lift. Okay, fine. Maybe it's like, oh, I have to like now go and learn this thing, because this is the reality of what folks are feeling out there, right? It's like, okay, hold on a second. I've run my team's XYZ way for a gazillion years. Now I have to like figure out how to use these agents, and now I'm hearing that the Shopify CEO is like not hiring humans, all these weird things, right? And I'm maybe getting sort of like, post-it notes from the board saying, hey, you got to figure out AI, right? But the reality is like, I need to like run a team, and I can't just stop and take 6 months off to figure this stuff out, right? So again, like, why now? And if you have a sales leader out there who's hesitant about this, you've operated many teams for the reasons that I just mentioned, and maybe some others. So go ahead and comment if you have others, folks, other reasons why you're maybe apprehensive about adopting AI agents to run your sales team or to augment or optimize. Go ahead and put it in the comments. But yeah, for those folks, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I'll just say that you'll relegate yourself to irrelevance if you don't learn how to leverage these tools. I don't know when that moment is going to be, but the most important thing, every person who wants to keep their job needs to be has to have some sort of fluency with these tools. You will just be you will have peers that outperform you if you don't use those tools. I think that's just the hard truth. The model.
So like the sales leader who knows it will get hired over you who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're not using it, your productivity it'll show up. You'll eventually you'll just be you'll get outperformed by someone who is using AI intelligently. And right now we're definitely at the time where the models have arrived at a place to where they're objectively useful. You can manage hallucination. It's not that hard. And yeah, I would say that's why it's important to do it now. But you can get great business results from it. It's not, it's not just about keeping your job, but you really get tangible business results. Your team should perform better. You can have more lean teams instead of having these gigantic, massive sales teams. You can have lean teams of 4, 5, 6 people who are just crushing it. And instead of having $800,000 quotas, they have $1.5 million quotas. Something like, there's a bunch of different ways to skin that cat.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and prep to share your screen? I'll just remind folks out there who need to figure this stuff out. Here's your time. Here's your moment to ask the questions. Like, again, I can't stress enough how important it is to now really get your answers to these questions, so you can go back and either optimize what you're doing right now, get started if you're not doing anything, or if you need to manage up and sell your management team or leadership team, your CEO, on investing on these tools and then reimagining the way that we actually operate these teams. Here's your moment. Cool. All right, Aaron, show us. I'm excited.
All right. So I posted on LinkedIn pretty recently about basically like the maturity ladder of using AI tools as a non-technical person. And so I think everyone started off in ChatGPT as what I call the tourist, where you're basically just using a chatbot Gemini, ChatGPT, you ask questions, you give it input, you get output, and hope AI figures it out. What I'm hoping is that everyone leaves today with a very, very clear way to be what I would call the strategist, where you use either, if your company has OpenAI business and everyone has access to that, you can use custom GPTs. Or if your company uses Google Workspace, everybody has access to what are called gems. And it's basically just a way to automate some sort of repetitive task. So let's just say you wanted to summarize a call in a specific way that Gong doesn't provide you or Fathom doesn't provide you. You can create your own gem, drop in a transcript, and you'll get the same structured output every single time. You can create business cases, follow-up emails. These are any sort of repetitive tasks that you're doing over and over and over again. And as salespeople, we definitely are. We're creating proposals, creating business cases, sending follow-up emails. All of that stuff, for the most part, can be automated with really, really high quality output, no AI slop. And that really comes down to prompt engineering. Level 3 is what I would call the automator. So what are these? These are, there's this tool called N8N, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with Zapier. N8N is basically Zapier 3.0, or Zapier, don't know which one it is. I don't think anyone knows. So that's where you string together services like Google Sheets, HubSpot, and you string together defined workflows, and then you can actually put AI in the middle of those workflows. And this is really where you get like waterfall enrichment, lead qualification, inbound lead routing, prospect research at scale is when you get to this level. It is more, you don't have to be technical, but you do have to use AI to learn how to be technical. And you will be writing small little bits of JavaScript to make all of this stuff really work at scale. And then of course we have level 4, which is the agent builder. So everyone calls the word AI agent is grossly abused. We're going to talk about what's the difference between an AI agent and actual AI workflow. AI agents are autonomous systems that make decisions themselves, have their own tools that they use to grab information, then make decisions, then decide what the next step is, and so forth. Certainly everyone can get to here. A lot of value can be had when you get to this place, because you don't have to, you're removing a lot of repetitive work, and that just frees you up. And it's also just a great exercise for your mind and how to use AI. All right, so let's talk about what is the difference between an AI workflow and an AI agent. So an AI workflow is a defined path. So I'll give you an example. So if someone fills out some sort of lead form and they are qualified, and like qualified is actually oftentimes a judgment call based upon a set of criteria that we have, and you can have AI qualify a lead as an example, and then send a Slack alert, and then also provide the rep who's been assigned some sort of research summary gathered from the web about the company, summarized, and delivered to them before they reach out. That is an AI workflow, and a ton of value can be gleaned in this type of workflow. And then an AI agent is basically some sort of reasoning, which is like, hey, my goal is to build a blog, and I want the blog to be optimized for SEO and AEO, and I want you to figure out, put a plan together, and then create a bunch of tasks, and then execute on that plan, and then deploy the brand new blog site. That is what an AI agent does. Now, that was a very, very large task that I just gave it, but just to give you an idea, what are the pros and cons? AI workflows are much more defined and much easier to manage, like 10% of the effort to manage an AI workflow. Whereas an AI agent is basically just as much effort to manage the AI agent as it is to manage a human. The difference is that the AI agent in general just doesn't complain and works tirelessly in 24 hours a day. And it can do stuff that normally, it can just analyze large amounts of data sets much faster, and so forth. So what do I think of it? Where do I think the sweet spot is for most companies and for most people? Probably AI workflows. Way easier to manage, super consistent inputs and outputs. There's no black box behavior where you're unsure why something happened, where AI completely runs off the rails. Much more consistent, and it's just really high ROI, much less time managing an AI workflow. So the fully autonomous agent sounds really great, but it's often a trap. And really the first place that you should start is really clean AI workflows, because there's just so much ROI to be realized from specific AI workflows. But even like taking a step back, let's talk about some of the lowest hanging fruit that is available to us as sales leader. And my hypothesis is that most of us have access to Google Workspace. And I'm trying to give people ways to get their feet wet without having to ask for another subscription. And the reality is you probably all most of you have Google Workspace. And if you have the version that most of your companies are paying for, like Pro or something like that, you have gems. And basically, let's like look at what is a gem. A gem is basically a way in this case, this is a business case drafter. Okay. What it does is it intakes transcripts and emails, and then it outputs some sort of outputs a one-page brief. Really, really simple. These are things that you have to do when you're making the case to a CFO and you need to arm your champion with some sort of document. This is just a no-brainer tool that every rep should be using. And the nice thing about gems is that you can share a gem to all of your team. Okay. So everybody has access to this. You can share it to your team, and then everyone can get on the same page to use the same business case drafter over and over and over again. And just to give you an idea, what do we have? We have some instructions here, and the instructions are basically, what is this gem going to do? And what is its output going to be? You can add tools like deep research. So it goes to the internet and starts doing a whole bunch of research on websites or whatever it is. But there's a whole bunch of tools that Gemini gives you that you can add every single time. And then, of course, you can add context. So I think one of the annoying things when we all first started using AI, it's had this training data, but it didn't necessarily understand your product, your market, your features, the benefits, your competitive positioning, where you're strong, where you are weak. You can add all of those documents as knowledge to the gem, and the output suddenly is you're like, oh wow, this workflow agent, it's easier to say agent, but this is really more of a workflow. This agent actually understands my business, and the output becomes just so much more compelling when you provide context. And so, and the way you get high performing anything with AI is just context. The fancy term for it is retrieval augmented generation. But all that really means is giving AI agents easy ways to sift through all of these documents and return relevant results to you. So again, what is this? This is available to you. Just go to Gemini app. You can see gems on the left-hand side, and then you can create a new gem, and then you just start defining it, and it's just super simple. You just define a system prompt, you give it some context, your docs about your company and products, and then every single time you need to create a business case, you're not reinventing the wheel. And that, I think, that's one of the lowest hanging fruit wins for everyone. Does it make sense to keep going? Should I I have a lot more to say on this topic, but again,
Yeah. For folks out there, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, please add them to the comments wall here, and I will get to them and we'll speak to them. So maybe
Cool.
we'll give a second or two for folks to add that. But one of the things that I'm thinking about here is just like being able to understand, and I know you're going to get into these prompts and things like that, but like how do I feed it the context in a way that is actually strategic and aligned with the way that we communicate within a sales organization, right? And then I got to also mention marketing, who's done all this product marketing and messaging and positioning and et cetera, et cetera. I know you talked about the context in those docs, but is that it? Is like, do I literally just upload raw
Yeah.
files or?
You can totally geek out on how to optimize that process, but 90% of the benefit is literally just dumping documents into a gem, and it already has all of the infrastructure behind it to then break down those documents into what are called chunks, and then it starts just giving you more contextualized results. It doesn't have to be anything, just dump all of the documents. Now, you want to be strategic about which documents you give it. All right. But in general, just add the context. If there's product marketing documents that have some sort of positioning that you want everyone to adhere to, that you should definitely be doing that. If you adhere to command of the message and there's positive business outcomes that you're driving people towards, you should have the positive business outcomes you achieve for your customers as context, so that when the business case drafter is analyzing the transcripts that you're dropping in, it's looking for positive business outcomes that were either discussed or potentially you missed and you can actually bring up. So this is such a low hanging fruit. Let's talk about a little bit about like, we'll get into NAN later. I want to talk about how to build prompts. So if you don't know how to prompt, you are going to hurt yourself in the future. There are good prompts and bad prompts. So Gemini has a certain prompting technique. OpenAI 5.2 has a certain technique, and that's different from OpenAI 5.1, which is annoying, but the truth. Then Claude has a different prompting technique. What you're looking at here is a Gemini gem, a system prompt that I use to create other gems, okay, or anything or any task that Gemini does, whether or not it's in N8N or in some sort of agentic workflow. So this is basically the one prompt to rule them all. It's a super meta exercise. But what this prompt does is I stuck it into a gem, and then I'll actually just bring up my prompt engineer here. And let's just say I want to create a prompt that summarizes a call. I want 3 sections: key takeaways, next steps, and topics covered. All right. Now I'm actually going to switch this to the thinking mode. The longer AI takes to reason about something, the better the output. So if you
just real quick, sorry to interrupt, Aaron, but just real quick, this is a tool that Gemini provides to help you engineer or create prompts.
Yeah, so I created this prompt here. So if I go and edit, let me just save this. So here's my gem. And then you will see, and anyone can follow up with me afterwards, hit me up on LinkedIn, and then I'll send you this prompt. But if there's one prompt I want you to walk away from, it's this one. Because if you want to create other prompts, you're going to be like, well, what do I write? The answer is you just create a gem that creates your own prompts for you. Okay, so you just give your own structured ideas. So this is basically, you're a Gemini 3 prompt optimization specialist. Here are some constraints. Do not include triple backticks with the enclosed. We're getting very technical there, but these are the types of details that you need for good prompt engineering, but it's already baked into the cake, into this prompt. So then, and then we have some sort of construction standards for the prompt. I then give it an output format. So what all I have to do to use this, if I want to create a prompt for call summarization, I just give this gem my ideas, my unstructured ideas, and then the output is a beautiful prompt that reaches my goal. So I'll just go here. Let me reopen this window. And then it's going to think about it. It has a set of rules that I've already given it. And now it gives me this super clean prompt that I can use for call summarization. All right. If you're writing your own prompts by scratch, it takes a long time. Your output is going to be inconsistent, and the quality of the output will be lower in general. So this is a specific prompt optimized for Gemini 3. You need to have one for each individual model. All right. So I'll go back here. Here's what this whole thing looks like. And this is what I use to generate additional prompts. So let's talk about some other use cases for gems that are just such an easy win for everyone. One-page business case. All right. Again, you can see I have the same structure and identity, constraints, output format. Anytime when you write a prompt, you always have to specify how do you want your output. It's so important to do that. And the previous gem that I gave you does it for me automatically. Okay. You provide the context and then you give it the task. This syntax is very specific to Gemini 3 though. So it'll work well for other models too, don't get me wrong, but other models have these nuances that you want to pay attention to. So what is another great use case? So create a gem for a one-page business case, but also for account research. Never show up to unprepared for a call ever again. And then you just share this to your entire team. It's so simple. And in this case, you can see I have a slightly different identity, slightly different constraints, slightly different output format. Here's the context, and then again, the task. And then based upon this, you'll get this beautiful research summary about whatever company, their business model, their customer segments, any initiatives they have, and so forth. And the nice thing about this account research gem is, I don't know if you recall this.
And by the way, Aaron, we got a question from the audience that might be good to kind of backtrack a little bit for Jeremy. Can you explain further how you created the original prompt in the prompt generator gem?
Yeah. So I did a deep research query on Gemini 3 prompting standards. And then I said, give me the exact structure that gives me the optimal results. That's the short answer to your question.
Is it possible to demonstrate that?
Yeah, for sure. So if I go into a new chat and so in this case, it's important that I have to turn on deep research for this. Okay, so this requires results that are grounded in web search. Okay, because the Gemini 3 prompting standards are actually not in the Gemini 3 training data. So you have to use web research. So you could say, give me the prompt structure that OpenAI recommends for model GPT 5.2. And then just to speed this up a little bit, I'll do that. What it's going to do is if anyone has access to Perplexity, okay, Perplexity can do the same thing and it'll just do it faster. So give me the prompt, the recommended prompt structure for Claude 4.5 Sonnet, okay? And Perplexity grounds all of their answers. Oh, wow, it actually feels like it just knows it out of the box. Normally what it does is it actually searches the web. But you can see here that, let me see if I can get a better result. I'll do another thread here. Give me last week's results for the news. Okay. It's going to look at, you can see that it's searching the web. Okay. So this Perplexity is the tool that you use if you want to ground everything in web search and get fast answers. But you can get the same type of thing with a deep research query in Gemini. The nice thing about using Gemini is that you don't have to buy another subscription to Perplexity. So in this case, prompt structure inquiry, it gives me a little research plan, and now it's going to do research, and then it's going to return to me the right prompt structure for OpenAI 5.2. This is going to take about 3 minutes because it's scouring through 100 different websites and forums, as well as OpenAI resources as well. So that's the short answer to how we actually, how I derive the prompt structure.
Awesome, Jeremy. Hopefully that's helpful. Let us know if we want to dive a little deeper into your query here. And just say for the folks out there, again, if you have any questions like Jeremy did, go ahead and add those questions, comments, feedback here, and we'll dive into it, very, very quickly and get you that insight. I'm excited, Aaron, to see you also just build a use case quickly. I know there's 1,000 ones that we can dive into, but just maybe you can show the magic here before we wrap up here today for the folks watching, so they can get a visual of what this might look like.
So in terms of like an actual a workflow, right? So okay, so let's talk about why would we use a workflow? So let me give you an example. Here's a workflow that I built in N8N. I'll explain what it does, but then we'll take a step back and build a really, really simple workflow. So what this particular workflow does is it searches titles on Google. I pull in a list from HubSpot is actually what's happening here. I have lists of defined accounts in HubSpot. I could easily have just a list in Google Sheets as well. And then here are the different, each one of these little boxes here basically has a different search title, learning and development as an example. Okay. And we're getting a little complicated here with what this is, but then basically it sends it to another sub workflow, which then what happens? I pull in the list. I grab the company from HubSpot. I then do a Google search of that domain. And then, then we want to send this to an individual workflow where I qualify the results from the Google search results. So it's I want the learning and development leaders at this domain from LinkedIn, and then it sends it to another sub workflow that then qualifies the actual prospect. So this is, highly automated, very complex workflow. It took me an insane amount of time to build. But the result is that I can drop in a list of accounts and say auto prospect this for me. And I can have 300 contacts prospected in a day, or 500 prospects prospected in a day while that's running in the background while I'm doing other tasks. Okay.
And how far does it go? So when you talk about prospect, you're saying let's think about it from the perspective of a BDR, SDR, right? What is this doing for the folks out there so they can really wrap their head around it?
Yeah.
What is this doing that the BDR used to do? Or maybe it augments the human BDR or the AE that's prospecting?
So what it's doing is it's doing a Google search like this. Okay. LinkedIn.com. VP of revenue. And then it's returning the results of this page. And then it scrapes this information, feeds it to an AI model and says, is this person a good, does this person meet our criteria? And actually there's actually stuff that is actually sent back to in the search results that you can't actually see in these previews. And then we say, okay, is this person qualified or not? And then if it's qualified, update HubSpot and add, and then if it's qualified, then find their phone number, then find their email, then update HubSpot automatically.
So we'll pause real quick because I want to make sure for the folks out there, the sales leaders out there. So it sounds like that research is being automated, right? And then there is an LLM that has to be plugged into, in this case, N8N, right?
Yeah.
That could be what, ChatGPT?
Yeah. So here's what this workflow looks like. Whoops. Let's see here. I want a sub workflow from this guy. And so once we basically say we receive the result of that Google search, and then you can see I have a prospect qualifier. And in this case, I'm actually using OpenAI, and then you can see I have a very, very, very structured prompt. Did I write this prompt? No, I did not. I had AI write this prompt. And then I started making tweaks, and then I asked for a specific output format. Is it a good fit or not? And then you can see I then say, okay, if it's qualified, send it up here. And then I extract the title or infer the title. Then I parse their name, because this is initially Natalie Lebo, but then I parse it into first and last name. So this is, this is and then I get the email, then I get the phone. This one's complicated, but is all the same little components used over and over and over again, basically, right? Reasoning nodes here. This is these are actual. So this is N8N, and what's cool about N8N is like I can just get OpenAI, and they have an integration right out of the box. So if you're going to use OpenAI, like you're always going to message a model. If you use Gemini or OpenAI, it doesn't matter. You're messaging a model. All right, I'll just quickly over this. You choose the model. OpenAI, I still use 4.1 for a lot of reasons, because it's super cost efficient. And then you can create what's called a system message, and that's where you put the system prompt. So the same concept though, I was making all of those system prompts in Gemini Gems. Okay. That's how this whole world works. It's just it's not realistic for you to be writing out prompts by hand over and over again. It's just, AI is better at it too.
So in this case, they should use the gem that they developed to write the prompts and then copy and paste the prompt in here.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So, and then you build a prompt there. So, let me make sure I didn't mess anything up. Okay. Go ahead and delete that. Yeah, and then you can see up here, this is where I update HubSpot, okay? But the nice thing about N8N is like all of these integrations for the most part are right out of the box. Now, if for some reason you don't have an integration right out of the box, you have what's called an HTTP request, okay? This gets into, you can figure this out entirely by using ChatGPT or Perplexity. You're like, I need to build an HTTP request. In this case, the service that I'm using is Find Email, I believe. Is one? Yeah, okay, app.findemail.com. Okay, Find Email is a data enrichment provider. They have API documentation. Your ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, they can scan their API documentation and help you create the actual requests. And so I think I actually have, what was I talking about here? So if we want to build it, I think, let me just give you a more visualized version of this. Looks like I'm missing my slide that I made. That was useful. Okay. Well, either way, the only thing that you need to understand is that all of this, like, I'm not an engineer, and I figured this out by just asking AI. I'm like, how do you build an HTTP request in N8N? Like literally the most, I want to build an HTTP request so I can enrich a contact's email. I literally, they can analyze screenshots now. So you can drop in screenshots of where you are at in the product, and it will give you the results that you need to figure out how to write these requests. So bottom line, N8N has all of these built-in services, HubSpot, Google Sheets, things like that. But you can, if for some reason they don't have an integration out of the box, you build what's called an HTTP request. to make that. How much more time we got? We got 5 minutes basically.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes.
Yeah. And so, and then maybe just like the last, I think most companies can get a ton of value out of building AI agent or AI workflows in N8N, right? Lead routing, lead qualification, even responding to a lead, or when a lead comes in, send a Slack message, give a summary. Perplexity has an integration into this. So if you want to do research on the web about a company, you can automate that with an N8N workflow by using a Perplexity node. That's just a no-brainer for preparation for any sort of conversation. But I'm happy to answer any questions about how can I make this more accessible to people. I really would love to help with that. Now, true agentic workflow, where you're using Google Anti-Gravity, Claude Code, that's for another webinar. It is a much higher level of effort, and you will basically have to spend all of your time managing an agent. Yeah, I'd love to make this more accessible to everyone.
Awesome. So let's say there's a sales leader out there who watched this webinar, or maybe got that post-it note from his or her CEO, and they're like, oh crap, I gotta figure out this stuff. What do you think is the first thing that they should do to go down this path to start to actually build these things out, and not just build these things out so they're in silos, but actually is done in a way that is aligned with the rest of their go-to-market functions, right? Because this has to be able to be on par with the approach that we've agreed upon, across the organization, whether that's with messaging and positioning and data and ICP and, all the stuff that's happening, right? There's constantly campaigns. One other thing I wanted to mention is I think also folks are a bit apprehensive because they're like, do I got to set this stuff up all the time for all the new campaigns that are happening all the time and, across my organization? And that might be, a lot, right?
Yeah. So the easiest way to get started is building either custom GPTs, Claude projects, or Gemini gems. Easy to scale to the rest of your team. If you don't have, the reason why I like gems is because almost everyone has Google Workspace, and you can share those across your team so you don't run into this scale issue. And so if you want to get everyone researching accounts, if you want to get everyone doing their business case reviews in a certain way, it is just the easiest way, and it's a repetitive task, and it is a very, very, very cost-effective way to use AI. It's already been paid for. Gemini's giving it away, and Gemini 3 is such an awesome all-purpose model for everything, and it's multimodal. It does videos, images, textual analysis, all of it. So I think that is just the lowest hanging fruit by far. And then if you want to, the next level is, once you get those into your process, well, then you should start by adding in more automated workflows that do multiple steps, integrate multiple services, and that can be done really in tools like N8N. And then for the truly agentic stuff, which is pull in the last 10 transcripts, analyze what went wrong, and then create a HTML summary of what went wrong and all those deals and why we're losing to our competitor. Well, that's an agent. And it requires more effort, but the time has arrived, which my preferred tool to do this is Google Anti-Gravity. The tool is 2 months old. It's not gotten crazy viral like Claude Code or anything like that, but it is, my gosh, it is, for a non-technical person, it is an insane product. I've completely automated my accounting, for instance, for Itero. I don't touch accounting. It's integrated with QuickBooks, HubSpot, Stripe, and just reconciles everything perfectly and fast and autonomously. And that is, that's what the dream that people were thinking about when we talk about an AI agent is just, are you going to spend 4 days for 12 hours a day building that? Maybe not, right? So,
Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. And for the folks out there tuning in, we got a comment from looks like one of your customers, Eddie. Itero is the best AI coaching platform I've used. Aaron is the man. Awesome. Thanks, Eddie, for
I
that.
appreciate you, Eddie.
That's awesome. Maybe just real quick, tell folks a little bit about Itero in the next like 30 seconds, just so they have some context.
Yeah. So I manage large teams. I was constantly in a coaching at scale challenge. How do you get reps to practice? And I built a solution where you can scale the process of role playing and coaching. So you can create customer simulations in a variety of different ways. Realistic customer simulations you can build super quickly, and then score your calls to see actually how things are going, where are actually the skill gaps that exist on my team. And then once you identify a skill gap, well, then you fix it with practice. You don't fix it with slides. You don't fix it with theory. You fix it by doing. People learn by doing. Itero makes that easy. That's it.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, everyone. We're going to continue to do these as part of a larger series around AI workflows and systems and agents. We'll think about what the next kind of piece is. There's a couple things that we touched on now that I think we can double click on. But for the folks out there, if there's any areas that you want us to hone in on, any particular builds or use cases, go ahead and comment here on the comment wall or send Aaron or myself a message, and then we'll go ahead and dig into that. And also, if you want any information around the prompts that Aaron was showing here today, go ahead and follow him on LinkedIn or email him. Aaron, maybe you can tell folks the best email to reach you. But follow him and DM him, and he'll send that over. Or like I said, email. And I think, well, I guess what would be the best email to reach you?
Yeah, you can just reach me at Aaron, Aaron, at iteroapp.ai. And then here is, how do I get I just wanted to drop my LinkedIn, but I have to connect my YouTube.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and comment and tag
Yeah.
you in the comments for folks to follow you. And without further ado, folks, have a wonderful, wonderful day and a happy new year. I know it's 2026 and we're all
Yeah, have
pretty
a great
excited
new
about
year,
it.
everyone. Super awesome being with everyone. Thanks so much.
Awesome.